This content is being produced by the podcast Bourbon Real Talk. The usual show format is to do a live review of a whiskey with a guest who tells their personal story. The purpose is to expose the world to the lives of people they may not have otherwise come in contact with. The goal is to reduce division and form new connections. Occasionally, we produce content that is meant to be educational like this program. For more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can go to our website at bourbonrealtalk.com, where you can sign up for our email list, or we can be found on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, and iTunes by searching Bourbon Real Talk. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bourbon Real Talk. We have a very special episode for you today. I have with us Nell and Bill from the organization Divine Equine, and we are going to be giving you some great information about an organization that is here local in North Texas and doing a lot of good for the local community. And there's going to be an opportunity for you to get involved and help with their mission. But we're gonna talk a little bit today about what that is, how it got started, but we're also going to drink some really good whiskey. So for a special guest, I like to have a special bottle. So today I have brought with me the 2017 George T Stagg from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. This is my favorite whiskey of all time. And that's saying something. I've got probably 150 bottles of whiskey, which is not a huge collection compared to some of the people that I know. But it's reasonable. And of all those whiskeys, this one is my favorite. So, Bill, I understand you are also a whiskey drinker. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I enjoy a good whiskey.
Do you? And what do you normally drink?
Well, usually I'm Jack Daniels. I mean, that's easily obtained, not the kind that you get. But
oh, that's okay. Jack Daniels is excellent whiskey.
Or I drink a Jameson. That's
those are the two you normally roll with,
right?
Yeah. To be honest with you, those were the two whiskeys that I always drank until I started collecting.
Right.
Yeah. So it can happen. I'm gonna pour a little bit of this up, and you can have as much as you want. I don't know how much you want to drink. This is actually quite a lot because it's cask strength whiskey. Nell also has a little whiskey pour there, but she didn't want to drink the high octane things because she has some riders that she's going to be spending some time with later today, and she wanted to make sure she was where she needed to be.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. So, Jack Daniel, just out of curiosity, are you a Tennessee Squire?
Since I don't know what it is, I can't actually say I am. So.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to make you one. So Jack Daniels has a pseudo-secret society, pseudo-secret. And when you become a member of the society, you can only do so by being invited by another squire. And when you get accepted, you become the owner of 1 square inch of land on the Jack Daniels premise. You get a deed that is on, heavyweight paper, gold embossed, everything. And then they send you a calendar every year and all that stuff. And
see, now that you said it that way, when I was in Special Forces still at Fort Campbell, we got new Humvees in. You were supposed to put 500 miles on them.
Mm-hmm.
So they drove down to Lynchburg.
Yeah.
To put miles on them.
Right.
And they went in, and of course, and a couple of the guys at Lynchburg at the distillery signed up for it. And they would get newsletters asking if they were doing fox hunts across their
land. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So I got one the other day that said, Farmer Joe lost his cow. If you see the cow on your land, would you please let us know? And I got one that said, we heard you were planning a construction project and you have to run all of that through our building committee, like you could really build on 1 square inch land. So, it's kind of fun. It's kitschy, but we'll talk about that after the recording. But Jack Daniels is really good whiskey. But what do you think of how this one smells? So what I love about George T Stagg, and obviously I've had this many times before, is the complexity on the finish that it really comes out. I mean, of course, it's a Kentucky whiskey, so it does have a lot of the vanilla caramel flavors that you would expect, but it also has a lot of a sweet pipe tobacco that I really like, and a sweet smoky, right. Like the smoke that you get on when you're smoking meat with oak, and I really enjoy it. So let's taste it up.
And it's smooth across the tongue, that's for sure.
And for 130 proof, it drinks pretty smooth. Long finish. Oh my God, so good. Huge fan. 10 of 10. If you get a chance to own or drink George T Stagg, I strongly recommend that you do it.
I would.
So you are a whiskey drinker, but that is by far not the most interesting thing about you. You've spent a lot of your years serving our country in the military. Is that correct?
I spent 24 years in Army Special Forces, stationed at Fort Bragg for a long time, and then finish up my career at Fort Campbell. And that's where I retired at 24 years. Well, I deployed all over the world, yes.
Yeah. Where were some of the deployments that you had?
Kosovo, a lot in the Middle East. Our unit was a desert unit. So we trained a lot in Jordan, Kuwait, went to Saudi Arabia a few times. Also, we had Eastern Africa. So we'd go to Kenya, Djibouti, Somalia, the locations like that, the finest places in the world. And I'm kidding. But a lot of people we met there were really good people that treated us well. But some interesting things you see that you wouldn't see in the United States.
Yeah. So when you think back on your career in military service, what is the craziest cultural thing that you can think of, or some crazy story of, you would not see this inside the United States?
Sitting on the floor with a plastic sheet, with this blob of food on there, and eating with your hands, and them throwing food over at you, and I don't think you'd see that in the United States.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff is like the Arabs. You'd never ever touch them with your left hand, because that's considered a dirty hand. That's how they clean themselves at the restroom.
Right.
You can't show them the bottom of your feet. You can't touch them on top of the head. Americans will pat kids on top of the head, and they would get really upset if you touched them on top of the head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, women didn't go shopping by themselves. But
wow. Now, since you were Special Forces, I understand that you spent a lot of time on security detail.
Well, I did after I got out of Special Forces. When I went to Afghanistan, I spent 9 years in Afghanistan, starting off with President Karzai's security detail. Then after we trained the Afghans up on how to do it properly, then I went to the embassy and was on the ambassador's detail, and did that for 4 or 5 months until another company bought out the contract. And then I worked for other security companies for the rest of the time I was there on infrastructure projects underneath USAID. A lot of them were in really what people would consider no-go zones. It was heavily Al-Qaeda was there. It was heavy presence of the Taliban. We had big security footprint we had to maintain to keep them back. We came under attack. I got under attack more as a contractor than I did in the military, because we just didn't have the assets to fight back as much as we did in the military. You had everything in the military.
Right.
Rocket attacks on our camps every night almost. A lot of IEDs, a lot of ambushes we've come across, have to fight through. So it really presses on you on that.
Yeah, and I can imagine that has a pretty large impact on you psychologically and your family back home that's worried about you and everything else?
Well, I tried to keep her oblivious of it, but there was a few times talking to her on the cell phone or on the satellite phone, talking back to her, and, you know, a rocket would come in or, you know, the alarms would go off that we were under attack. And it's hard to hide it then. But
Sure. So in that type of situation where you're just in an environment where attacks are going on, you're coming across these IEDs, they're launching in rockets. How effective were those attacks? Was it more of a scare tactic, or
it was a harassment tactic?
Because y'all, the way y'all were set up, it was probably people didn't get seriously hurt that much, or?
Oh, I lost my first camp I was in. I was in that camp for 6 months, and we lost right at about 20 guards, 16 vehicles. So, you know, there was a lot of damage done. The rocket attacks were more of a harassment because a lot of the times they just go right over to camp, you know. But when you hear them go over to camp, it's nerve wracking. It makes you, I guess, the pucker factor goes up.
Right.
You never know where it's going to land at.
Sure.
So,
and so with that many years of service, tell us about a combat situation that really sticks out in your mind.
Well, the biggest one was when we went into Iraq. We had already been in country 6 days before the war kicked off. We had they helicoptered us in. We were about 400 miles behind the lines. We had set up an area. I had what was abandoned airfield for a lot of the assets, the OGA assets, which are OGA's, the other agencies in the government, and our guys to come in. And when we left there, we were going to have to move. The regular army had started coming in by that time frame, and they told us we were going to push towards Baghdad, and there was 24 of us. And they told us, okay, this route's clear. You're going to go up this way. And we went, and we saw a couple of regular army guys in their fighting vehicles, and they're looking at us kind of strange. And I'm like going, there isn't anybody past this area. And then we'd come by farmers, they'd see us and they'd run. We're like, oh, this is not good. And then we pulled into a village, and there was about 500 Fedayeen fighters sitting on the side of the road eating breakfast. So we got in a firefight with them, and we pushed through, and they started chasing after us. And we went out in the field. We circled up, kind of like the old wagon train, started calling in on a satellite, trying to figure out what was going on. And they told us, hey, oh, by the way, there's a battalion of armor ahead of you, so you can't go forward. And we're watching behind us, and they're setting up, waiting for us to come back. So we turned around and had to fight back through it. And it was rockets, RPGs, machine guns. And like I say, it was only 24 of us, and there was a boatload of them. The only good thing was we had an Air Force guy that was with us, combat controller. He called in, and A-10s came in, and I didn't know they were coming. They came over top of us, just screaming in like 200 foot above the ground. And I think if we wouldn't have had those guys there, that, you know, we would have got wiped out. But they had those big Gatling guns on the front of the. He cut loose with that, which scared me more than the firefight did.
By the way, you're allowed to cuss on this podcast. Okay, it is an explicit podcast, so
I'm sitting there.
Yeah, don't hold back. I know you're a military guy.
It scared the holy shit out of me. Is what it did. We fought through it and got back to where we originally started from. Met it with the 101st Airborne that was there, and I stepped out of my vehicle, which the vehicle we had was a modified, like 2.5 ton truck that we had all our ammo, all our extra fuel, all our demo, or, you know, C4 and everything else. The extra grenades were all on it, and looking at my truck, and it's pouring every fluid out of it, and start looking at all the bullet holes in it. and then found out that I got hit in the back by an RPG. The guy behind me said, yeah, it hit you right in the back end. And I had felt it rock it.
This is Randy Sullivan with the Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team and the host of Bourbon Real Talk. Producing a podcast is time-consuming and expensive, and Bourbon Real Talk wants to maintain its integrity by not promoting products and services that it doesn't believe in. For this reason, I've opted to have my real estate team sponsor this program. The Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team has operated since 2008. We've sold almost 500 homes. We have proprietary programs that make a massive difference to the outcome of our clients, and we service the entire North Texas area. If you live in North Texas and you need to buy or sell a home, please give us a chance to explain how our services could benefit you. We understand that not all of our listeners live in North Texas. We also know that not all real estate agents are created equal. If you need a real estate agent outside of North Texas, the Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team has access to tools to help you find a highly qualified agent in your area. The service is free for you, and we stick around through the end of the process to help you with your transaction, even when we're not your agent. If you have a real estate transaction in your future, please reach out to us at randallsullivanteam.com, Facebook, Instagram, or just give us a call at 214-385-9101.
But we ended up having to tow that truck after that point because, and God was looking after me that day because my door was stitched up the side of my door, outlining my body. Yeah, but I didn't get hit once. And then when we were doing the maintenance on it, the steering column was right in front of my crotch, had 6 strikes of bullets on it, but I didn't take one round. So God looked after me that day.
Wow.
But it makes me think about it. Every once in a while I get that, ooh.
I can imagine. So you haven't had a chance to listen to any of my podcasts, but I had a brother that was airborne infantry, and he actually never got deployed, but he worked at a base that was a training base for the Army before they sent people over, and he played the role of a terrorist. So they had actually brought in Iraqi citizens to live in this fake village that they had made, and then they would bring in the soldiers for training, and my brother played a Haji, and they wore the units that could sense the lasers, and he would be hunted by the helicopters and the dogs and all that while they were learning how to find the terrorist. And it fucked him up, even though he didn't see actual live combat. He had a lot of signs of PTSD, and by the time he got out of the military, because he injured his back doing a jump with his full gear on and all that stuff, he was completely addicted to painkillers, and he committed suicide in 2014. So that's part of the reason why the work that you guys are doing is so important to me, because I know that there are people out there struggling, and we're going to talk more about how y'all's organization helps people that are dealing with those problems and why it's important for people to get involved. So we've told a scary story. Do you have a funny story from your service in the military?
Yeah, I got a lot of different funny ones from this. I mean, it's
just pick your favorite one.
Well, you put me on a spot. So if I'd have thought about it, simple one being, we were doing training out in Arizona one time. Now we're talking about 10 special forces guys, and everybody has this illusion or the picture of the big burly, guys, and nothing scares them and everything else. Well, we were doing survival, and they were taking us out, and they were showing us, we had a real good survival instructor in from the Air Force, and we're out in the desert, of course, and he's showing us, well, in the desert, there's plenty of food to eat if you know where to look. So he was showing us, okay, see where this brush is all underneath this bush here. He says, well, that's a pack rat. And he said, pack rats will make the nest there. And he says, a lot of times, A, you can get the pack rat, or B, he said, rattlesnakes and stuff will get in there. He says, if they haven't eaten, they'll sit in there and wait till they're hungry and then eat the pack rat. So if you knock them down, you might find a snake you can eat. So we started knocking them down. Well, this pack rat comes out. We're trying to get this pack rat. And like I say, there's 10 of these guys. Well, the pack rat, as little as it was, decided that it wasn't going to be had and started attacking. And you see a bunch of guys squealing, trying to get around the pack rat, which if you look at it and go, well, these guys wouldn't be scared of a little bitty thing like that. But it's like the rat and the elephant. Everybody was jumping over each other, trying to get away from this rat chasing after them. So that's probably one of the funnier times.
Yeah. When I think about special forces, especially like private security, I watched this documentary one time. I think it was on Blackwater or something, and they were showing these guys, and it was right when a lot of the security forces, when they were being captured by the terrorists, they were beheading them. And this guy pulls his shirt down, and he had a tattoo on his neck that said "Cut here," right? And I thought, like, what does your mentality have to be to just face that level of danger? And it's just a joke to you. And that's probably the same kind of guy that would freak out when a rat tried to get on him. You know, he's like, I'd rather face a terrorist with a gun than a rat.
We called it sick humor. You had, and the jokes you'd play on each other. You'd have a guy that was terrified of snakes. So guys would go get a rubber snake and put it on his door handle to his room, and you'd hear him squeal because. But you got a lot of humor like that. It's just you just had to face up to it on your every day. You were going out of the wire, and every day you knew that they were sitting there watching your every movement, and you knew that it wasn't whether they were going to hit you, it's just when.
Mm-hmm.
And the trying thing is, it really got to you was not knowing when. You're not going out looking for them because you have the clients you're taking care of. So you're taking these people out every day. And a lot of times, like when I worked at the embassy, you got some arrogant type. A lot of them were the Greenpeace and not Greenpeace type, but they're that type. And they didn't want to really have security because they thought these people loved them because they were doing stuff for them. But, we'd get hit. But they'd always want to go at the same time, go to the same place, the same route, and everything else. And we would tell them, hey, you can't do that stuff. And, they just didn't want to listen. I'm a diplomat, so I know better than you do.
Huh. But that's tough. So I think I was talking with Nell, and she said eventually the risk to your, person was too great. And you guys decided, time to probably shut that down, find something else to do. When you came back from having served in the military and then for private security, what were the struggles that you faced transitioning back into being society?
A lot of it was when I first got back, and she would tell when I'd come home from leave and everything else, I'd stare out the window as we were driving along because I really wouldn't drive when I would come back because I drove aggressive driving like we'd have to overseas. And but I'd be looking out the windows, and she thought I was having issues, and I was just enjoying being able to drive down the road, seeing green grass, but I was still looking for
danger, risk,
looking for something on it. A lot of loud noises and sudden movement and stuff would really bother me. Crowds of people would bother me. I wasn't as social as what I had used to be, but that's all part of the PTSD that I have. But, and it affects me socially. I'm not used to. I was always wanting to go out and do things with everybody, where I'm not that way anymore. The horses help me out a lot. It's my what do you call it? My not venting, because I'm not really venting on the horses. It's just I can relax around them, and that's what it does with the PTSD. You're not having to worry about everything around you. The animals what helps you out.
Right. So yeah. And so tell me, was this an idea that you guys had to start, equine therapy like way back in the day? When did you guys start to think about doing equine therapy?
Nell can tell you better about it on that, but it was a young girl that was there that we ran across that was showing horses, and she was in a car wreck when she was 16 years old, and she was paralyzed from the waist down. And they rigged up the saddle and everything with Velcro and everything. So she was showing horses, and people didn't even know that she was handicapped.
Right.
And we started looking into it and found out that the therapeutic effects for horse riding, it helps with the joints and helps with their balance and everything else. And she started thinking about it at that time frame. Of course, at that time frame, I was still thinking about the military and still thinking about, so it was her starting to concentrate on that. But we had also had 2 children that passed away when we were first married. We had a couple of kids, and there was no therapy for the muscular dystrophy and things like that. There was really nothing back then. So we gave that a lot of thought too, of, helping out the younger kids, giving them some type of therapy. And she can discuss that, what she does, since she works with them primarily. But
yeah, well, let's pass the mic over. I know you're a little bit nervous, but don't be. Everyone is going to love you.
Oh, thank you.
I already do, and we just met. All right, so
You need to get to know me.
I don't need that. I already know who you are because you do great things. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your vision. What was the progression of you coming to the conclusion that this was something that you needed to do to fulfill your life mission?
Well, in the beginning, we just seeked out help for our children and couldn't find any. They categorized us with mental MHMR, mental health and mental retardation, because they really didn't have a avenue for children with muscular dystrophy or cerebral palsy or low muscle tone or anything like that. And we hooked up with a physical therapist, and we learned how to try to strengthen them through water aerobics or just basic room therapy. And we couldn't have children, so we started taking other people's kids. Yes. I guess they loaned them to us.
Yeah.
And we started noticing that they responded better than other children that were in the same situation because of our horses. And then we heard Dana, who is paralyzed from the waist down from a car wreck when she was 16, who is a champion Western pleasure rider. And they got her back on the horse because in her devotion to us, she said she was done with life at 16, that there was nothing for her, and her father put her back on a horse, and her whole life opened up again. And that's when I said, oh, we need to figure this out. And of course, internet wasn't popular then. And if you really didn't know who to go to, you were just floundering on the side of the beach trying to figure out how to make this work. And I told my husband, I said, well, I really would like to do a ranch for the children to have someplace to go for the summer. And he's like, well, let's start a little smaller. And so I said, okay. So I started checking into therapeutic riding. Through college, I was studying cognitive psychology, behavioral psychology, and that motivated me toward how we see in life, how we take in information. And then I started noticing my husband, when he would come home from a tour or whatever he was doing in the military, that when he got home, he was tense and sharp with his words. But after he rode, he was calm and relaxed, and we would do more things. So as I progressed in my knowledge, when we retired, he said I could open a therapeutic riding center. And I think he thought it was going to be a little hobby. And now we have 31 riders weekly, and plus 50 up to a month. We'll get up to veterans. We get veterans from Bonham VA. Mm-hmm. They bring them out because they had heard about how horses are helping them. And they said, can you help us? Because they're not opening up to the therapist. They're just sitting around, not talking, not interacting, or they don't want to have anything to do with us. And so they came out. We were the last on their visits out to the to socialize the veterans back into the population, as they call it. And they said they noticed that when they went back to therapy, they were talking, and they were talking to each other, and they were expressing more what they were holding in than they were before.
That's remarkable. So do you have a psychology degree? Are you? No.
I have 172 college hours, but I cannot pass math.
Oh.
I could do everything else but the math part. Algebra. Who does algebra?
Right. Not in therapy.
No.
Well, not at all, honestly.
Not unless you're going to put a pool together.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I use some algebra in my.
Well,
right, yeah. It's only technically algebra. It's like what you learn the first day of algebra, like all the later stuff. Like I don't use any of that.
A plus B equals C.
Yeah, I use a little bit of that. But I'm a realtor, so I do math when I'm analyzing properties. But
when I was in research methods, that's the only time I ever used algebra.
Yeah. So I find this fascinating because has science tried to identify why interacting with a horse changes people's.
Well, studies can go back all the way to the Roman years. When a Roman soldier would be injured, they found that getting them back on the horse, not just to go back to battle, but it helped get them back on the road to recovery.
So did you watch Game of Thrones?
No. My daughter and my husband are thrown.
So there's a boy, he becomes paralyzed from the waist down, and someone designs a special saddle for him so that he can ride. And it portrayed exactly what you're talking about in the show. Like it gave him a sense of purpose and a reason to live. And now he can feel more normal. So, that made sense to me because here's the person that can't stand up, but now he can be on equal, playing field with everybody else that's also on a horse. But I also remember I used to be a avid hunter, and I read this study about an organization that was going into inner cities where there was very high homicide rates and incarceration rates, and they were taking these inner city kids and they were taking them out and teaching them how to hunt, and that the incidence of them becoming arrested for violent crime went down to almost zero, which is almost illogical because you're teaching them to shoot a gun. But there's something about connection to nature that causes you to respect life, respect your own life, that allows you to see the world in a different way. And I think that, equine therapy may be in that same vein, right? That you're giving them a connection with an animal that doesn't care that you are disabled or that you're troubled or that you have PTSD or that you have, it's just a connection that's natural. And it's not complicated because the horse isn't talking back.
A horse is a prey animal. If you think about PTSD, children in society that grow up under combat residential areas, they are, what was I going to say? They're prey animals. They are victims. And when you can put a child or an adult with a horse and they have the heartbeat of 45 beats a minute and the respiration of 12, they slow the heart rate and the respiration down of the rider. They start calming themselves. They become one with the horse. And then the biggest fear factor is putting them on the back of the horse, because some of these children have never seen a horse, touched a horse, and then you're going to ask them to get on a horse. And so we start slow. We work with grooming, calming down the anxiety, and then we throw them. No, we don't throw them. We ask them politely to get on the horse. And then they start seeing their confidence build. And once they start believing in themselves, then you start seeing growth in the child or in the adult. Because if you think about an adult, they've been confident until something bad has happened, and then they have to question everything after that. So when they're on the back of the horse for that hour, they don't think about everything else. They think about not falling off that horse. They forget the troubles that they're in. They start relating to the horse, and then they start seeing that they're building a relationship. Because a lot of our soldiers, when they get out of the service, if you think about it, I'm going to go to you and say, Dad, I'm going to go in the service. And you're going to go, why? And because I want to serve my country. But why? And so they go in the service, they leave their family behind. They have nobody but new people and people yelling at them, telling them to be here at a certain time and do this and do that. And then for 25 years, they stay in, or even 6. They get out and they don't have that anymore. They don't have someone constantly being aware of their movements. And they think they're going to go back home to be with family, just to find out family has moved on. They have their own routine. They have their own friends. They want to put you back in, but the soldier feels like they're not accepted, that they're different. So what we try to do is explain to them, you're not by yourself. Everyone that gets out of the military goes through this. What we do is try to find a way to friend them with a horse. Build a relationship with the horse. Find a friend.
Right. So it's one of those things where if they can just experience reconnection,
right,
then that creates a pathway that they can grow on. Would you like some more? Okay.
Of course.
Of course. So that's amazing. So your organization has been providing this type of therapy for when did you start?
We opened our gates in 2012.
Okay. And right now, how many riders do you have?
We have 31 weekly riders, and then monthly we have 20 veterans.
Okay, so you do the veterans monthly, and the weekly riders are at-risk children? Is that a fair?
They're all different types of disabilities. We have them in wheelchairs, from cerebral palsy to autism to behavioral defiance.
Got you. But to say that your riders are disabled, is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Because I know that you said that you
Physical and emotional.
Emotional. Gotcha. Okay. Because I know you said you work with the Grayson County Juvenile Correctional Facility.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And have you seen any reduction in recidivism rates and things like that with your riders?
The director of the Grayson County Juvenile Probation has expressed that he does not want to lose us because he has seen a difference in his juveniles.
Well, it's up to you guys to make sure that doesn't happen. So there's going to be more information about how you can get involved to make sure that doesn't happen. So I think we kind of understand what it is that you're doing, how you got here. Tell me a little bit about the current state of your program and what your short-term needs are and what your long-term needs are.
We have 31 riders, and currently we have 11 horses. Horses' size has to determine on the child size. You don't want to put a 300-pound horse on a 700-pound. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay.
Yes, we don't want to do it backwards.
Yeah.
We want to put a 300-pound rider on a horse that will fit him.
Right.
And so we have to have a wide range of horses. So we have 11 now. We're working on getting one more to meet the weight requirements. It requires a lot of hay and a lot of grain. Vet bills are enormous. Vaccination, dental work, because horses, I know you think, oh, well, they're in the wild, but you don't know about the ones that die out in the wild. You just know about the ones they capture. And so they require vaccinations, they require dental, fresh water, someone grooming them, cleaning up after them, maintaining the facility and the arena. Our arena is our biggest problem right now because we're an outdoor facility, and Mother Nature has really shown us patience because we've been closed majority of the time this year because of the rain. It's not the fact that we can't ride when it's raining, it's we can't ride after it rains because we're flooded. And if we had a cover, then we would really only close down during our August month and our December and January month because it's just too cold and hot.
Gotcha. So to summarize, because I've had outside conversations with you, we've already established what the benefit is of this type of program for the participants, and it's enormous. It's enormous for disabled children that have physical disabilities. It's enormous for disabled children that have emotional disabilities, and it's enormous for veterans. And their largest problem right now is that they don't have a covered facility for them to do their riding sessions, so that weather can just eliminate their ability to provide this service to the public, right? If it's been raining, it can shut down riding for how many days?
A week.
Oh, it can shut down riding for a week. So if you have a rider that might be a child with cerebral palsy that needs that experience emotionally and also for muscle conditioning and strengthening and working on balance and all that stuff, and it rains right now, they don't get the therapy they need.
Correct.
Right.
That
This is Randy Sullivan with RSHST Capital, LLC, and the host of Bourbon Real Talk. Producing a podcast is time-consuming and expensive, and Bourbon Real Talk wants to maintain its integrity by not promoting products or services that it doesn't believe in. For this reason, I have opted to have my funding company sponsor this program. RSHST Capital is the first of its kind funding company that provides pay-at-close funding to home sellers out of their equity. If you have a home to sell, need money for renovations or repairs to maximize your profit, money to stop pending foreclosure or to keep your mortgage current, or cash for really anything, then look into RSHST Capital. This program is simple. We verify that you have equity, approve you for a funding amount. You have access to that cash at practically a moment's notice for only a nominal fee. This program is raising sellers cash after closing by tens of thousands of dollars, stopping foreclosures and changing people's financial future. You pick your real estate agent, your contractor, and have access to actual cash or contracting expenses with zero upfront cost. This is a nationwide program, so if you have any curiosity about how it works, please look us up at rshstcapital.com, Facebook, or just give us a call at 214-385-9101.
it rains every time we're having the veterans come out. Yeah, every time we have a plan for the veterans coming out, a storm comes up and we have to cancel for them.
And that's a problem because you only do that once a month.
Right. We get the PTSD track, and then we get the post-traumatic track, the trauma track units. So the trauma track veterans are the ones that have already attempted suicide or has indulged in recreational drugs to help stop the pain. And so they're in a more elite group of, let's get you back on the right track. They really need to come out. And they hate not coming here. Now, these veterans aren't just from our area. They're from all over the United States. We get them from New York, Washington, California, Arizona, Florida, Texas. And then we encourage them to hook up with a therapeutic riding center in their hometown. Not to be a rider, because you can't ask a veteran to be a rider. You have to ask them to be a volunteer, because veterans love to help. And so if you can get a veteran to help you, not just riding the horse, but helping other people ride a horse, is just as rewarding as being on the back of the horse. Because we say the horse is the magic maker. He makes the magic happen. And we serve not just our veterans, but we serve 5 counties. Bryan County in Oklahoma, we serve several students from there. Collin County, Fannin County, Grayson County, and there's one more. All of Texoma. So we have them come around. Now there's therapeutic riding centers all over Texas, but we're the only one in Grayson County.
Gotcha. So, yeah. So why don't you tell all the people about how cherry your lifestyle is because of the fat salary that you get for doing all of this work for the community?
I have never received a paycheck, and I've been getting this ready since 2006, and we opened our gates in 2011. Now I do have a part-time instructor, and she gets paid because, of course, someone else isn't going to do this for free. Someone says I'm crazy for doing it for free, but I know the benefits that a horse can give you, and I want to share it with the parents of their spouse or their children to see them grow as an individual. Because when a child is born, when you're growing a child, you have all these dreams and expectations of that child, what he's going to be, a doctor, a lawyer, somebody. Then when you're told that they have a disability, that dream is gone. And then you're looking at the child as, oh, I love you, but what do we do? And I want them to see their child as a person, not as a disability, as a disease or a name that goes along with what they have. Because the child is a person first, and then they have the disability. And we take the disability away. So when they pull up into my driveway, their disability stays in the car. We know they have one, but we don't cater to their disability like they can't do this.
A lot of people come out their place and say, that's a nice house sitting there. That's a nice barn. The arena that we have, we had built was nice. That the money we're getting in from the center itself is paying for that. That's not the truth. And I'll tell them, it's like, it doesn't pay for any of this. I pay for all the house, the land, the barn, all the electricity and everything else. I have to work out an area to be able to afford it. They're like shocked because the money we do get in is mainly donations. We have very few that actually paid to come out there ride. So to be able to maintain all that, has to come from somewhere. And right now, I'm the one that pays for it, which I'm perfectly happy to do. Because if you go out there and you actually sit in and watch a session, the perfect example would be, an autistic kid that shows up there. It's a nonverbal, non-functioning autistic child that comes out, and I come in and see it because I drive about 800 miles a week to be able to be at the center for the weekends. You come out one week and the child's non-functioning, and I come back a couple of weeks later and that child comes out, and you got an autistic child that's never spoken is actually speaking. It moves you. It moves you a lot.
Wow.
Before my husband let me go into this adventure, he said, you need to go volunteer. So I went to a local down in McKinney. They have a therapeutic riding center there, and I volunteered. And this little girl was laughing. I go, what do you like about riding? She goes, because no one knows I'm disabled.
Right.
When I'm riding a horse, I don't have to get in my wheelchair. I can go anywhere I want. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. This is what I want.
I feel bad for those of you that are consuming this on iTunes because you can't see that I'm trying not to cry.
We
Twice.
cry a lot. We cry a lot at our center.
Twice I'm verklempt. I'm trying not to cry. So the point that I was trying to make is that this is not a profit center for them. So part of the reason why I picked this organization, I donate money on Kiva. It's a micro lending organization. And the way that I find the opportunities to invest and loan money, do these microloans, is I look for individuals that their loans are almost funded and that my contribution is going to make a difference, right? And so as an organization, and there's going to be more information released on this, this is a place where the what little we can do would be pointless in a huge national organization. But here, it will make an enormous difference, have a true impact on individuals that are in our community. And it's not just throwing money into a giant pile. You know, these individuals are saints. They have been funding this organization out of their own pocket for years and years and years. And they raise a little bit of money, but you know, right now they're raising enough money just to feed the horses. All of the facilities and all of that stuff are paid for just by their personal money. And it shouldn't be that way. They should have the support that they need. And I pray that we can come together as a community, and there's going to be opportunities that are posted for you to give to this. I pray that we can come together as a community and one day raise enough money that they can build a cover so that they're not having to cancel sessions that have such a huge impact on people's lives, whether it be a disabled child or a veteran. You know, we want to be able to, you know, make a difference and bring this issue to the forefront, so that it gets the attention it deserves, because you know, you guys aren't going to be running advertisements on, you know, the Super Bowl, right? That's just not where you're at, right? So you need individuals to catch the vision, step up, and be willing to put in the effort. And we want to do everything that we can to help at Bourbon Real Talk. And there's going to be, but before I kind of wrap things up, is there anything else that you feel like y'all need to share before I kind of wrap it up?
I'd like to say too that, all right there, thank you. I'd like to say that if you're listening to this and you want to come by the center and actually physically see and come by, because it will move you to see these kids and the difference in the way it makes of these kids. Or if you get a chance to come out when the veterans come out, and being a veteran, I can tell you, it makes a world of difference to me. And you watch these people come out there that are troubled, truly troubled, and watch the change. It comes over them in an hour, just being with these horses. Or if you just want to come by and volunteer your help with the little things around the place, working with the horses or working with the children, we'd be happy for you to come out. Matter of fact, we'd be grateful to have you come out.
Yeah, awesome. So go ahead.
The veterans, when they come out on a bus. I go and greet them before they get off the bus. No one's talking. They get off the bus, they go stand under a tree away from everybody, because they said we have a large crowd. So we have so many people that like to help with our veterans. And they're like, they don't believe in this, what we do. But by the end of their 4 hours with us, they are laughing. They're hitting each other like soldiers do,
right?
And they're joking, and their therapy sessions back at the Bonham VA is working.
Wow. So to kind of explain to you, one, you might notice that there's a big ass still in the background of this video, which might be confusing since we're talking about equine therapy. But we are actually at Iron Root Distillery. I got hooked up with Divine Equine through the licorice family that runs Iron Root. Iron Root has been supporting this organization for how many years? 4 years? 4 years. They do an annual fundraiser here. When I heard how little money they raised at the last fundraiser, I was like, no, that's not okay. I know that I can do better than that. And so I decided that I was going to use what little influence I have. Thank you guys for paying attention to my ramblings, to try to bring some change to this organization. And so we are partnering with Oklahoma Bourbon Connoisseurs, which is a Facebook based whiskey club. Justin literally just walked through the door in Dusty Lee. So fat shout out to those guys. And Someone Say Whiskey, which is a Facebook-based whiskey club that Rodney Smith started He tries to give me founding credit, but technically he's the one that clicked the button. So Someone Say Whiskey, Oklahoma Bourbon Connoisseurs is going to have a fundraising competition, Red River Shootout. We are going to determine who's more generous to the veteran and disabled children community, Texans or Oklahomans, because I think it's going to be Texans. Rodney's kind of torn because he's from Oklahoma, so I'm not even sure which side he's going to be on. We keep having a debate. But we're here today. One, I wanted to get word out about this organization. I feel like this is a really fascinating topic for people. But two, we wanted to, let people know this is an organization that needs help. And it's not like throwing money into, the big, fire of most large fundraising organizations where it just gets burned up on salaries and all of that stuff. These people are personally sacrificing to make a change, and it's because they have a passion and a heart, and they shouldn't have to be sacrificing as much as they are. And I feel like us as a community should circle around them and provide the support that they need. So there's going to be a whole lot more information coming out about, how you can get involved, how you can help this organization. So, stay tuned for that. But I'm going to wrap up this episode real quick. How do people get in contact with you? How do they find you?
Online. You can go online to divineequineriding.org.
Divineequineriding.org.
That's with an I, Divine, Equine, riding.org.
Perfect. And also on Facebook, correct?
Yes.
Same spelling?
Divine Equine Therapeutic Riding Center, Sherman, Texas.
So search that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Instagram. Or no? We're working on a Twitter.
Okay.
I'm learning all these things.
Yeah, I suck at it too.
I didn't even know what a podcast was.
Yeah, she didn't even know what a podcast was. I'm still a little bit unsure, but whatever. It's fine. We're making it happen. And then, so that's why I'm wearing my Iron Root shirt, because as you know, I'm a big believer in what the Licorice family is doing up here. I love their products. I love their heart. I love that they're serving the community. Someone Say Whiskey and OBC feels the same way. And so there's going to be a lot more information to come on that. If you'd like more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can find us at bourbonrealtalk.com. If you have a show suggestion, you can submit it there. If you think that you would be a good guest on the show, which, by the way, most people think that their lives aren't very interesting. The truth is your life is super interesting to people that have not heard it before. So if you think that you are, have a topic that would be helpful for people to understand, like, PTSD, or I want to reduce homophobia. I want to reduce racism. I want to reduce political tensions. I want to, all of that stuff. If you're in the law enforcement industry, if you're whatever, people need to be more connected and less divided. So if you have a show idea, go submit it there at bourbonrealtalk.com. You can also find us on Facebook by facebook.com/Bourbon Real Talk. You can find us on Instagram /Bourbon Real Talk. And as always, I hope to bring some good things in your life, teach you a little bit about this brown water that we all love, but also create some connectedness in the community. So if you ever need anything, throw them down in the comments. And as always, I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.